D-Mace, Vingen, and Donick on this Monday. Welcome in. We are counting down the final days of July.
How many days we got left?
Well,
Like
today is
3?
July 28th.
Is it already?
So we got 4 days left in July, which on one hand, let's savor the 4 days that we have left in July.
They're going to be hot too.
They're going to be hot. And just a little sneak preview. August is going to be hot too.
Sneak preview. Coming attractions.
Breaking news. It's still going to be hot.
Yeah. Coming attractions. Hot in August.
I know a lot of the kids will go back to school next week, so they're not maybe looking forward to.
I'm sure they're not.
Calendar turning to August.
I'm not looking forward to them going back because traffic, and I ain't even got kids in grade school. I just don't want the traffic.
It changes the traffic pattern.
It's been so easy coming in and out of work lately. The only thing I run into maybe somebody driving slow, but now that the kids come back, ooh man, that whole little corridor that I go down, it's gonna be a madhouse, especially on the first day.
That's Derek Mason. I'm Willie Donick. David James is behind the glass. Today, we've got intern Emily with us today. Adam Vingen,
yes,
on the vacay. And we have not heard from Adam this morning.
Not today.
We're off to a good start.
But he has sent out pictures mapping where he is. The last picture we got, he was in Durham, North Carolina, at the University of Duke, or is it Duke University?
It's Duke University.
Duke University.
If you're being official.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he went to Cameron Hall. And what did you tell him, Willie?
I'm very disappointed.
Yes,
very disappointed with Adam. He wanted his son Arlo to see the shrine.
Yes.
You know, the place where they're going to be talking, where it all happens.
Coach K built.
Yeah, it's one of the great venues in sports. There's no question. I am not a Duke fan at all, but I will admit Cameron Indoor is really, really unique and cool. So they walked up. They sent a picture of them kind of looking up. And the thing about Cameron Indoor is, have you ever been there? Have you ever been there?
I've never been to Cameron Indoor.
Have you ever been there, David?
I have not.
Okay. So when you walk up there, you don't know that that's what it is.
It looks like a regular building.
It does. It looks like a building on the campus that it could be a chemistry class. It could be your sociology building. It just looks like an old classroom, or, maybe it's an old PE thing. So from the outside, you don't really know what you're walking into. But then when you walk in, you see what you see on TV all the time. So I said, hey, did you get in?
Yeah.
And what was his response?
I think his response was no or something like that.
No. And I had to explain to him the rule of the gym rat. The gym rat.
Gym rat rule number one.
There's always a door open.
There's always a door open.
Exactly.
Especially an old gym.
Exactly.
And that's Cameron Indoor Stadium.
There's always.
And so the gym rat will always get in with that rule in mind. There's always a door open, because once you find the door that's open, if somebody comes and asks how you got in, what do you say?
Hey,
the door was open. That's right.
Hey, I thought it was open.
The door was open.
My bad.
They can't. What are they going to say?
Well, while I'm here, can my son? He's he's growing up a Duke fan. Can he see the court?
How can you say no?
We've got to have a discussion with Adam. Yes. I don't want to interrupt his.
Oh, he's listening.
I don't want to interrupt his vacation.
He's for sure listening.
Yeah,
but I feel like on the way back through, he's got to try to channel the rule of the gym rat. Rule number 1: there's always a door open. And rule number 2 is, if you can't find the door that's open, you will find the person
that knows
that will get you in.
Exactly.
You find the person.
It could be a student.
Could be a student. Could be just somebody who works in the building. And you just say, hey, I got my son here.
Arlo.
Big Duke fan.
Tell Arlo to get a sad face.
Can anybody just show, just walk us in there and take a peek. We'll take a picture. Can we just see the court for a minute?
Tell him, hey, listen, I'm here from Nashville, and we're just passing through. So I wanted my son Arlo. You got to make sure Arlo has some Duke gear on. My son Arlo, give the sad face, Arlo. He wants to get in. And they'll let him in.
Right.
Yeah. So there you go.
You cannot accept. Now, I don't know if it was like, hey, we don't have much time.
No, it wasn't, Willie. I'm sure it wasn't.
But you cannot accept not getting in. If you're going to walk up to that place, you can't get an appreciation for Cameron Indoor until you get into you got to get the flavor. You got to get inside.
You can't, because if you are making a pit stop there, which it really is not a pit stop, because you map this into your travel, so it was built in. You got to at least try more than one door. And I think Adam just tried the one door.
I feel like he did. I want to know what he tried to do, because
did he go around?
Yeah. you got to circle.
Yeah,
you got to be
circle
willing
around.
to find the back
You got to
door.
be willing to lift Arlo up.
Absolutely. And rule number, this is the corollary to the gym rat rule. If there's a window open, that counts.
Take it.
That counts.
A window is like a door.
Yeah. Window's the same as the door. It was open. Just say, hey, it was open.
And we're not promoting breaking and entering.
No,
we're not.
No.
If it's open, this only applies when you are making a road trip and you go by your university or university that you love and the sports team that you love. If there's a way inside of the arena or the stadium, you find it.
Yep.
That only applies to stadiums and arenas, not homes, people. No homes, okay? Even if the window's open, don't go in.
That's what we draw the line.
Right
We're
there.
talking about enjoying the essence, the ambiance of an arena.
Exactly. So there
Rule
you go.
of the gym rat.
That's
we had to
also
get that,
why we
we
said
had
the
to
rule
get
of
that
gym rat.
disclaimer. We had to give the disclaimer.
That is an important point. I'm glad you mentioned
absolutely.
that. We don't take it any further than that.
No. Nope. Well, Willie and them told us, and D Mace, they told us to go in.
They said it was okay if the door's open.
No.
Can you imagine if like you're in handcuffs? Adam, Arlo, they got the cuffs on his 4-year-old. He's almost 4. And they're saying, but officer, have you ever heard of the rule of the gym rat?
Officer, do you know Derek Mason of the
Willie
Fantasy Sports
Donick?
Hall of Fame?
Come on
And
now.
Willie Donick, you played.
They said you could just go in. They said you could just. Oh boy. Well, just food for thought there.
Yeah.
This is something we'll talk with Adam. Like, by the way, D Mace, Adam, and DVD presented by Bet365, Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, and so we're gonna have a great show for you. The Titans will keep cranking it up this week. They're gonna go into pads, and that may be where we start. D-Mace is, I know you always take the first few practices with a grain of salt before the pads go on. So what's the biggest change that you see before we get your evaluation of maybe what you have seen so far, what we can take away? Of course, they had the open practice on Saturday, which got a lot of attention, a lot of video. The one throw in particular kind of went wild. And so it's one play, but it was exciting.
Yes.
And so we'll try to break that down before the show is over. But what's the biggest thing that changes when you go into pads? What do you find out?
I think it's the tempo and energy out there on the field, because now there's not this sense of, even though you are, but there's not this sense of, oh, I can't thud the guy. I can't hit the guy because he has on no pads. Now you can kind of go through the original. You can go through the original motion of tackling someone. You can follow through when you have on pads, and you can knock a guy to the ground. But when you're not in pads, that energy level is toned down as far as from the physicality standpoint. It's toned down just a tad bit more. You got to be a little bit more careful at what you're doing, especially along the offensive line and the defensive line. When you engage in those guys, you got to be careful and keep one another up. And try not to grab and pull. When you get on pads, there's more of a thud. You hit them and you kind of follow through. You're not worried too much about, tapering down the physicality of the potential play. All you want to do is make sure you stay up. Fisher would preach that all the time. John Harbaugh would too. Stay on your feet, because people understand that with or without pads, even though when you had the pads on, you're thinking about finishing and driving, but you don't want to take an individual to the ground, especially if it's not one of those type of periods, a goal line period where you're trying to get the guy to the ground. If it's just a thud period, I can go through the motion of tackling and thud the guy, get him a hard, solid hit, and then follow through. But without pads, you can't do that. So the energy level raises the minute you put on pads. That's why, when I'm looking at practice and because I've seen it over and over and over again. Mind you, our practices were a little bit longer and we had more days in pads. I think we was in pads the first day. I may have been the second practice we were in pads. So we had a non-padded in the morning and then a padded in the afternoon. Or I think we ran our tests on one day and then the next day we were in pads, something like that. So, but I've seen guys practice without pads and they look like they're getting it. They look like somebody that's going to go out and be a key contributor. And then all of a sudden you throw those pads on and everything changes. That ball across the middle, you may not want to go for it now because now you can get thud. I can hit you. I'm gonna still take care of you, but I can put a hit on you. When you're not in pads, it's like flag football. You can't touch me. I'm gonna run across the middle. I'm gonna do this. Quarterbacks are gonna make certain throws because they know the defensive guy can't touch them at all. But when those pads come on, man, it seems like people get alligator arms, and for some reason they just can't block or be blocked. So that's why I look at the first couple of practices and I think, okay, this is a good baseline for where I think this team could be. Guys are moving around fluently. It seems like everything is running the way it's supposed to be ran. So it's more so about technique with me on those first couple of days, because I know once those pads get on, it may take some of those younger guys a little bit longer to get adjusted. And then some guys just don't adjust to it because they equate putting on pads to game time.
I'll ask the low-hanging fruit question because this seems to be buzzing around the Twitter circles and the talk shows a little bit, and I guess it will be a thing. But is the whole chirping, the trash talk, when you get into the pads, does that change that part of it? And not that I think it's a big deal either way. We always talk about training camp fights and stuff and how dumb those are. But at the same time, establishing your turf, forget about throwing punches or things like that. But when you actually have more physicality in the practice, I do think that is where you start to see who's for real.
Yeah, you do. You talk with your pads, not with your mouth. Some guys are able to talk with their mouth, and then once you get the pads on, it's a different story. And some guys are able to do both. I played with a guy, Ray Lewis. Keith Bullock was that way. Some of these other guys on defense or offense that, when they put on the pads, now the energy level raises and the trash talking commence. And, it's not as much as what you think, but it does. It sort of elevates the level of physicality. And when you elevate the level of physicality, and you're talking about alpha males out there, majority of them, you're going to get the trash talking. You're going to get the in your face. You're going to get the pushing and shoving. It's just a bunch of testosterone out there, and guys are out there being physical. So it does ramp up the sort of trash talking when you put on pads, because the first thing you hear when you don't have on pads and a guy trash talks, wait till we put on pads. Wait till we put on pads. I see how much talking you do now when we put on those pads tomorrow. That's the first thing you hear. And some guys, they can go with it when they put the pads on. Some guys, not so much.
Yeah.
They shrink. So that's why I look at these pads. I look at these practices, man. And it's good that they're moving around. It's good that they're executing. But I want to see those pads come Wednesday.
In the next segment, we'll talk about what we did see on Saturday from a lot of different angles, because that was the first sort of showcase in front of some of the fans, and there's always more attention paid, even though, like you said, it's a glorified. They're not in pads. There's not much you can deem, but there's going to be a question I think we ask with everything that comes up, and that is, how does it affect Cam Ward? Because there's so much riding on Cam Ward. So what will you look for from him when the pads go on?
Just to see how he commands the huddle continually. If he's one of those guys that, as Brian Callahan said, he can talk trash and still listen to the play. I want to see if he can continue that, even though, listen, quarterbacks can't be touched with pads or no pads. They might as well just have on shorts and a helmet when they're out there. But it does elevate, I think, his ability to sort of see the game as he may see it on Sunday, because again, it's guys with pads, guys are flying around, guys are not as much hesitant to hit another guy because it's like, that's what we're supposed to do. We got on pads. So now Cam can see a sort of a snap, maybe some snapshots or sort of like this tutorial video of how it may be come Sunday. Things flow a lot faster. Those holes are a lot tighter. They're no longer, like you said, we'll talk about it, but some of those throws he made that people show clips, those are tight throws. And he has to understand that's how it's going to be each and every week out there in the NFL. Because in the NFL, wide open is a step. If you're more than that, the coverage was blown, but majority of the times it's a half a step.
What about specifically feeling the pass rush when the guys are in pads as opposed to not in pads? Because the question we always ask when you're sitting there trying to evaluate a practice, and I'm sure the coaches have to do this on some level, is okay, how is that translating to a real game?
Yeah.
Right? Is with that throw, was it on time? Or if that was a real game, would he have been sacked? Does it change in pass?
Yeah, it
when
does.
You're evaluating Ward?
It does, because now the defensive guys, they're coming faster and with more power. Because no longer is it, again, I don't want to hit somebody in the chest or the shoulder when they don't have on pads. So I'm sort of holding back. But now, again, we have on pads. Now, all of it is fair game, with the outside of, taking somebody to the ground or doing something like that or grabbing somebody. Everything else is fair game. So I can come at you with a good punch to the chest, or swiping down on your arm, or hitting that left or right shoulder if I'm a defensive guy. Now you get more of a realized pocket situation, because the pocket is truly collapsing on you now. And now you got to figure out, how do I either get out of it? How do I deliver the ball quicker? Or where do I know where are my hots in this particular play? So it allows things to, like I said, it gives you an opportunity to see things more so what they're going to look like in a game, and feel that pocket more so of how you're going to feel it in a game. Because again, when you don't have pads, it's easy to be the offensive lineman. You should be able to do it without pads, but when you throw in those pads, things gets a little bit harder.
615-737-1025 will have a lot of thoughts on Cam Ward and Titans training camp as they move on to the next phase, which is practice in pads. We do have a couple of texts on the rule of the gym rat, D-Mace. Greg texts in and says, I've never seen a game in Neyland, but I have found a gate open.
Exactly.
Took photos on the field. Same with Georgia Sanford Stadium. Same rule applies.
Exactly.
Say for the gym rat, it's about getting in there with a ball and shooting around, get some shots up, when you need a place to play. But of course, if you just want to see it, the same principle is out there. Jess also weighs in and says, I used to work for IU Athletics. It's Indiana University. And my quote offices were Memorial Stadium and Assembly Hall. A truer statement has never been made. You listening, Adam? But if my old bosses are listening, I always kept my keys on me and the door is locked. All right. Thank you, Jess.
Statute of limitation is gone.
There we go.
Yeah. So Robert asked the question you just answered too. The other texter we got so far: who is Cam going to be when the pads come on? Well, let's talk about what we have seen from Cam so far, and we're going to tackle that when we come back. And if you went to the practice on Saturday, I do want to get some feedback on what you saw, because obviously the first thing that everybody sees is the new stadium is coming up. It's taking shape. It's a long way from being done, but you're seeing a structure, and obviously it's a total mess around there. And if you're going to a game this year, you kind of have to figure out, how am I going to get to the game? So people that went, and I have talked to some people that did go, what was your experience like? And what does the stadium look like? Because I'll be honest, I heard some things that were not all that great. And also something that happened at practice on Saturday, the latest in the tale of woe, from Treylon Burks. That was a bummer. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. Our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. But I'd really love to hear from you. If you went to the event on Saturday, what did you think? Stay tuned. We're just getting it cranked here on DVD 102.5 The Game. I got that on video. That was a tweet that D-May sent that captured, the flavor of that one play that everybody was buzzing about on Saturday when Cam Ward rolled out the opposite way. Like it was, we had a great conversation with Louis Riddick about just why he makes, specifics about what he sees in Cam Ward and the comparisons to Patrick Mahomes. And that had a little bit of it, right? The baseball kind of throw where it's not what you're supposed to do, but he did it and it looked great. It was a beautiful throw. And I do have to say, and I'd love to hear from some people that went to the event. I felt for Taylor Zarzor, the new play-by-play person. First of all, it's always a challenge when you're replacing a fixture like Mike Keith.
Yes.
But then you've got to do play-by-play on the PA. It's never easy to do that. I don't care how good you are. All the echoing and stuff, like you're hearing yourself echo back at yourself. That's not what I would have signed up for.
That was the pass that was heard all around Nashville.
It really was though. The pass itself, right?
Yeah,
Everybody was buzzing about that.
Everyone was buzzing about that. And like you said, I mean, it has to be, this is where we've gotten, as a sports society where everything is managed as if it was a game. From the practices, from everything, it's everything is geared toward, the game and giving you the experience that you may not, the same experience that you get at a game, they're trying to emulate at practice, whether it be, refs, first downs, somebody, the PA guy, going over each and every play. It's a lot of the game has bled into what you do out there on practice. And you see Cam Ward and you see some of the passes that he made and whatnot. And, this is what, because I listened to, and I know we're going to talk about this too. I listened to Calvin Ridley, and because I always say, just listen to people. People will give you buzzwords. People, just if you listen to somebody, they'll tell you exactly what they're thinking, or what they're not thinking, or whatever. Last year at this time, the enthusiasm for Will Levis wasn't this. It really wasn't. If it was, I'm talking about from players.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about from the city. I'm talking about it. I'm not talking about from the owner, because the owner, I think she was just trying to be, positive.
Right.
She said that about Will Levis. We got a young, and in her mind, that was the case, a young, exciting quarterback from what she has seen at that particular time, and it just didn't work out. But beside her, I don't even think Brian Callahan was overly excited. Now he's excited about getting the job and the potential of developing this young guy. But I think once it was like, okay, we got some work to do. But with Cam, it's different. Listen to the players talk about Cam Ward the way they didn't talk about Will Levis.
Yes, we're definitely going to hit on that specific thing in the noon hour, because I think that is apparent. And Louis Riddick echoed it as well, that there is a pretty decent gap in Riddick, I thought they had the right term, because we still don't know what Cam Ward is going to be when it's time to play. But as a prospect, there is, as Riddick put it, there's really no comparison. It's a wide gap between Will Levis, the prospect, and Cam Ward, the prospect. But that did create a lot of buzz. And the Titans, look, they can put any product in the field, and it will still be the most talked about sports entity in the city. They have that just because it's the NFL. But Cam Ward really is all they have.
Yeah.
There was a great I forget where the discussion was, but sometimes a great marker, it's been thrown out there before, but who's buying, what jersey would you buy, right, at the pro shop? They don't really have that guy that back in the day, this, D-Mace, it was a great competition of how many number 9s are you going to see? How many number 89s are you going to see? How many 85s are you going to see? Obviously, how many 27s are you going to see? You knew who the guys were. It was just, there were so many people you would buy the jersey for. You saw a whole array. You had a lot of Bishop jerseys. You had a lot of, you go down the list. You had a lot of Curse jerseys. When you start listing the jerseys, who are you going to buy? Number one, it always helps if it's a skill guy.
Yes.
Right? But other than Cam Ward, there's not really a jersey guy since the Derrick Henry era ended. And, that whole era, Tannehill, et cetera. There's just not a whole lot going on. So that puts so much more. And this is a theme we've hit on before. We're now starting to see it come to fruition, is how do you channel the excitement of Cam Ward without overhyping him, right? Because it does really look like there's a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, there is. And listen, only time will tell. But I would rather my quarterback, show, flashes of this than to not show flashes of it early on. Because if he shows flashes, that tells me he's getting it. And he's going to, and I don't think anybody questions. I'm trying to figure out what people are questioning about with Cam Ward. That's what I'm really trying to figure out. Because if you just strip away the name and whatnot, and you look at him, does he make all the throws? Now, I know people go back to, well, he took some chances. What quarterback doesn't take chances in college? I mean, if you show me a quarterback in college, I'll show you a quarterback that take a lot of chances.
Yeah.
Because that's just the way it is. You make throws based upon what you're seeing. And you feel your guy is more talented than that guy that's covering him. So you're going to try to throw, you're going to try to throw passes sometimes into tight spaces. That's just what you do as a quarterback. You don't make it a routine thing.
No question. So he's got that, and that attracts fans, right?
Yeah.
That gets you some of these clips that go viral. And so that's really what I want to know from people that went. What was the experience like just watching him? And also, what was your experience like in the stadium? Because that's another question I have. Let's call it an overall vibe check. 615-737-1025. Because I think there was certainly going to be a lot of hype when you're the 1-1, when you're the first overall pick. But he's giving you some things to work off of, to feed off of, if you're trying to get a little bit excited when you've been burned these last couple of years, right? There's been a lot of disappointment. That's how you get the first pick, is your team is not good, right? Because the other thing that they are fighting as an organization is, with the new stadium going up, people are going to really have to want to go to the game. And I'm not talking about people that are going to, you can always feed off of this cross section, people from other cities that are coming in to watch their team play and having a great time in downtown Nashville and experiencing all of what that has. It's the perfect city to just drop in on Saturday, enjoy the nightlife, and then walk over to the stadium on Sunday. That's a weekend. And it's so attractive to do that. It's way better than a lot of NFL cities. So the Titans are going to have to fight that. But for their fan base, that stadium provides zero of the reason that you're going to go there. So it's got to be Cam Ward or how the team's playing for you to want to go, is what I thought, is what I would think, just based on what I'm seeing. I just live by the stadium. So there's just so much. This is part of it. When you build a stadium right next to the old stadium, it's going to create a lot of logistical hassles. And it does look like, quite honestly, they have completely neglected Nissan Stadium. They're not doing a thing to upgrade things that have been a problem for 20 years over there and have only gotten worse because they have not reinvested in the stadium. right? It is basic bare bones. It reminds me a little bit of an old minor league baseball park. You're going for the game. You're not going for any of the amenities you get at Nissan Stadium. The club level, that's so antiquated, and it looks exactly the same as it did in 1999 when it opened. They haven't done anything. So there's nothing that's going to bring you there. So you got to love it. You got to want to go. So you're down to the diehards. So I am curious from that standpoint how people that routinely go to the games are feeling about these next couple of seasons, because you got to squeeze in not one but two more seasons before you see the fruits of the new stadium. If you're going to continue to go to the new stadium, because it's a whole game changer there in terms of what it's going to cost you and the investment it's going to take to continue to go.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's, and like you said, I want to hear what Titan fans who did go to the open practice, what they saw, how they felt about it, what was their feeling on Cam Ward. And then too, for those that went and know that they will be going to, the game once the season starts, how is it around the stadium? I know a lot of people are going to have to park on the other side of the bridge. So are you getting used to parking where you're going to park and then walking across the bridge? Because that's what a lot of people got to do.
There's going to be a lot of people that are used to parking in a certain spot. That parking spot is gone. Nope. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of parking spots that are just taken up by the construction. So all those people are parking somewhere else.
Yes.
Some people listening are probably like, well, I've never had to worry about that. I always park at so-and-so. I got my secret spot. That's how we always go. Yeah, I get that. But other people are going to be looking for your secret spot now. So let's go to Adam to get it started here. Let's get a vibe check on what you've seen so far at practice. Adam, welcome to the show.
Hey, Willie, got you. First off, man, I got you in the old prayer rotation there, bro. Thinking about you all the time.
Thank you, buddy.
Hey, so T'Vondre Sweat is one that you're missing as a Jersey guy. Like, it's either him or Cam, but it's really just down to them. And I think that's the problem with Cam is that he's got you're right, D-Mace. He's going to say, hey, my guys got to go beat their guy. The only problem is our guys are not going to beat a lot of guys. And so when you realize how low the talent level is right now, I just hope Cam can persevere and understand that it's not on him. Like he's got to continue to develop, take his lumps, but a lot of this is not going to be on him. And so I worry about that. The thing that hooked me on him is that he got with Shador, and I know y'all know where I'm going with it. And he's like, hey, make a song with me. And he's like, no, I'm a football guy. What are you talking about? Get away from me. So, like that, I love him. After that, I'm all in on Cam. So I just want to see him not get down on himself when bad things happen. Because bad things are en route, bro. 2025, bad things are coming. Like, let's get excited, but just know that it's not all on you. Like, you got to be able to overcome.
Gotcha, Adam. Good stuff. 615-737-1025. Another thing that accompanies the jersey selling is the availability of options.
Yeah.
And another thing I heard a lot from fans, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, because I didn't go, but I have been in the pro shop. It's not what it needs to be. If you want to sell jerseys, my experience of their pro shop, it's tiny. The Sounds have a better pro shop. I'll be dead honest with you. The Sounds have much more variety, much more options. Of course, the Sounds, it's different in that you're not ever going to sell a Sounds jersey of a player unless it's maybe an alumni like Don Mattingly or, some of the classic guys who have come through Nashville are now great players. They try to do some of that. But the Titans Pro Shop is not a place where you're like, oh, I've got to go into the Titans Pro Shop.
Yeah.
And because that's where you should get the secondary guys like Sweat, maybe somebody that you like. We have one texter on our text line, 615-737-1025, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You know it's bad when people buy a Stonehouse jersey. I'm a culprit of that.
You bought a Stonehouse jersey?
A Stonehouse jersey. I mean, I used to see some Hendrick jerseys out there.
I saw some Hendrick jerseys.
He was there for a long. That was a good investment.
I love my
Stonehouse,
punters.
not so much.
I love the punters. Okay. As far as the gift shop, it may just be inventory from last year they're trying to get rid of. They're in the process of moving. Just working around a lot of stuff, and then the roster isn't set just yet. So I would be interested to see how it look, because they are further along in the building process with the new stadium. So last year, the gift shop probably looked a certain way because everything was in there. I wonder how it's going to look this season, knowing that you're closer to moving, into the new stadium. And then the jerseys are going to change. I mean, the uniforms are going to change, right? There's a uniform change here. So I'm not sure how many jerseys they're going to produce this season. Honestly, I'm thinking, I don't know. I wouldn't produce anymore.
That's a good question.
Really,
it's a really good question. I would think, though, that you've got to try to have something. You can't just say, well, we're not going to have.
Well, you got to sell what you got. And good part about this league is when that player leaves, you just snatch the name off and you can leave the numbers and then you repatch it on another name. So that's easy.
They have some challenges for sure, but I don't know how much their front office and their top down people really care. Like I would work. I don't think they work that hard, honestly. I think they need to work harder to cultivate their fan base, because I really am concerned where they're going over the next couple of years, unless Cam Ward just becomes the savior, and just rescues everybody by being that special. Because I'd like to see some creativity, and hey, come up with some fun market. Hey, we know it's a mess over there, but here's why you should come. There's
come help us.
Have they had a meeting like that? Like, hey, I know our pro shop, we don't have a lot of, but here's why you should come to the pro shop. Their pro shop is tiny. It's an NFL team. Like, it should be easier to get a jersey.
Yeah,
I think, even if the jerseys are changing, or lean into the fact that the jerseys are changing. Here's your last chance. Here's a deal. We're giving you a deal on the jerseys that are sort of on the way out. You don't even have to say it that blatantly, but find a way. Get them out there. 615-737-1025. Your vibe check, especially over the weekend, specifically if you went to the event on Saturday. What'd you think? Especially with Cam Ward certainly making some noise out there. 615-737-1025. You're listening to DVD, and we are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
Derek Mason here. If you're injured in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers for a free case evaluation. Some insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible or nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. They understand how much your bike gear is worth to you and will help you get it all repaired and replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support events or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fusen, and you can find them in Nashville at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
1025 The Game and Souls for Souls have teamed up for a back-to-school fundraiser, Souls for the 615, to provide new shoes for the kids experiencing homelessness in Nashville. Help a child in Middle Tennessee step into the new school year with confidence by donating $20 for a new pair of athletic shoes. For more info and to donate, visit thegamenashville.com/shoes. Willie Donick, Derek Mason here with you. Adam Vingan is on vacation this week. We're talking about the vibe check of the Tennessee Titans so far in their pre-pads portion of just the opening week of training camp, especially the event on Saturday that was more of the open event. We'd love to get some feedback from you if you went down there. One of the things that happened there, D-Mace, unfortunately, of course, is the latest chapter in the sad saga of Treylon Burks. The guy cannot catch a break, and that's no pun intended, obviously, but he did catch a break. I mean, he made a great effort for a catch. We've seen it so far, and we have conditioned ourselves over the last few years. Every time he makes an effort for a catch and he goes down to the ground hard, you hold your breath. And sure enough, he's got a fractured collarbone. Ian Rappaport saying that he will miss the start of the regular season.
It's unfortunate because he's one of those guys that we see from time to time in this league, and a guy that is immensely talented, but for some reason, whether it be through play or injury, he just can't find himself on the field. And with Treylon Burks, it's been more so injury than anything, because it seems like when it seems like the momentum is going his way, he runs into a hurdle, and he has to spend weeks trying to get himself back going, only to then have another injury somehow, some way. So it's unfortunate from him. And I was listening to Chase and Big Joe this morning, and they had a caller on. I think the caller mentioned something about, well, this is why receivers should wear shoulder pads, and maybe that is the right answer, because I think what these players need to understand is that when back, and they may still do it now, but some guys choose not to wear them. But majority of the time, we were in shoulder pads. We may have had on shorts, but we were in shoulder pads. Why? Because it protects your shoulders. Or we were in shells. But when you know how to practice, you don't get anybody hurt. So you can practice with shoulder pads on and still have a sort of fluent practice, because everybody knows how to practice. When you don't have on pads and you don't know how to practice, things like that happen. You don't dive for balls when you ain't got on shoulder pads. You just don't do it. We used to get mad at Chris Sanders all the time, because Chris used to dive, and that was just him. He used to dive and make her, acrobatic catches, in practice and in the game. I guess it was more so he's practicing what he's going to do in the game. But I think you got to understand, dude, when you ain't got on pads, don't do it.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Especially
we know you can
on
do
the
it.
Particular play it was out of bounds. Like
exactly.
That's another one where I thought of that aspect. I also thought about the turf. You're on the turf. Would that have happened on grass? We'll never know. But this is another curious decision that they made as an organization to switch to the turf, even though they knew they were moving into a new stadium.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy.
And their argument was they thought there were too many injuries on that field, and it seemed very anecdotal. It seemed counterintuitive, so to speak. Counter to what most evidence suggests.
Counterproductive to what you're trying to do.
Right, even though certainly the turf is way better than it was. Remember, we did our retro, we did a rewatch of a game from 40 years ago, basically, on the old carpet, and that was brutal. Yes. You wonder how they ever decided that was a good idea. And so it's way better than it was, but still, grass is safer.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's a lot of things that go into it, and it all adds up to, A, Treylon Burks has incredibly bad luck. B, there are certain humans that are just more injury prone than other humans. And when it comes to staying on the field for the NFL, he's not the only one that you just asked the question, is your body cut out for this? Caleb Farley certainly, he's proven that his body was not cut out for playing professional football.
I think unfortunately, because it's not like, because it seems like Treylon's doing everything he's supposed to as far as working out, lifting weights, and everything else. Now, listen, maybe he needs to, change some, a few things in his off-season workout. I don't know, but it seems like he's doing all the things that will keep him healthy, but he's just not staying healthy. I look at it as, listen, some guys are supposed to play this game. Others, they work through a lot just to get themselves in a position where they're on the roster. And some guys, no matter how talented you are, your body's just telling you, I'm done. I've given you everything that I can. I'm done. Pivot to something else. And you never want to tell a kid, hey, listen, your dream is over. And I'm not saying that about Treylon, but he's every year he's been here, he's been injured. Every
something different each time.
Year he's been injured. And maybe, just maybe, as talented as he is, his body's still telling him. His body's telling him, I'm done. Now, I'm not going to buy into, because I heard, Robbie and Rex too this morning. And, I think Robbie said, and if I'm misquoting you, Robbie, please correct me. I think Robbie said that he didn't believe that Treylon was making his roster regardless. So, him getting hurt. Okay. I don't think that was true. I think in their mind, this was going to be the year or the camp he proves to them he could be on this team or he couldn't. I don't think they were going to outright just cut him. Try to get a trade, yes, but cut him. I just
I still don't know. Like now
they
that
can't
he's going
cut
to
him now. They can't cut
right.
him.
And so to me, that's a really important question. Let's say he's out until week 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets healthy enough to play, and he's sitting there, and you're looking at the other wide receivers and going, it's not knocking our socks off here. Is this a pathway for him to bypass all the questions? Do you cut him? Do you not cut him? And maybe he's available and he has at least another chance to get out there. Like you can't, whenever this ends, he's never going to be able to say, they didn't give me a chance.
Because
it's like he keeps getting opportunities. I'm wondering if there still would be one more, even despite this.
I think this was the year. I think this was the last one more. This was it. And it'd be interesting to see. I think I wonder if they're going to put him on IR. If they put him on IR, then that may tell what or if they don't.
So they could table the situation for 6 weeks.
If they don't put him on IR, then that may tell you, like, if he comes back week 2, we can cut him. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, once you get past like week 3,
I think it's week 2,
right? Then the money is guaranteed for the year and whatnot. So if they don't put him on IR, that may be telling. That may to them to us that may signify that they may think about, if another guy pops, then once he gets healthy, once he passes the physical, we can release him. But even with that, I would almost believe that he's going to be out at least 2 games during the regular season.
So that does bring up a very curious roster question that I'm not sure we'll get the answer to right away, because we don't know the severity of it.
Because they had an opportunity to put him on IR right now. So the minute he got hurt, he has to have surgery, or he just probably has to let it heal on his own. They could have chose to say, we're putting him on IR, but they haven't yet anyway.
And they have some time before they have to make that. The question is asked on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Did he have significant injuries, Treylon Burks, in college? And I'm looking at the 3 years he played at Arkansas. He played 11 games, then 9. So I don't remember back that far in 2020, but remember that was 2020. So there were less games.
Exactly.
So
the whole COVID stuff.
They may have only played 9, right? Because there were whole games wiped out.
Yeah.
Because of, one team couldn't play. Remember that God, I hate thinking back to that.
I think it was like 8 SC games and then just 1 bowl game.
Vanderbilt's last game that year, Vanderbilt's like, we don't have enough guys. That was supposed to be against Georgia. So I don't think he had any significance. He played 12 the year that he was drafted, 12
so
games.
Injuries wasn't a
I don't
thing.
He didn't have this. He didn't have this in college.
So
all right, when we come back, we're going to get some really good insight into Cam Ward. We're going to pull from the perspectives of a lot of different people who know football. As D-May said earlier, listen to people. Listen to what they're saying. So we're going to break all that down, especially from the wide receiver translator aspect. And we're going to talk Cam Ward, what we've seen so far. Stay tuned. We're coming back on DVD. Team Ace, Fingen, and Donick coming at you on a Monday. We are cranking it up. Our phone and text line always open, 615-737-1025. And it's presented by and driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Don't forget, we're broadcasting for the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Adam Vingan on vacation this week. So we are talking a lot of Titans training camp as they transition into pads for the first time. And we're looking forward to seeing what happens this week. We'll be all over the training camp coverage, and it's presented by Macero in 12 South and Parman Energy Group. All right, D-Mace.
Yes.
We love the wide receiver translator on this show. And we got some really good perspective on what a couple of veteran wide receivers are seeing from Cam Ward, and we thought it was interesting. Now, David, I forgot to double check with you on this, but which one do you have ready first? We have Calvin Ridley, and we have Tyler Lockett.
I got Tyler Lockett ready.
Okay, so Tyler Lockett did a great interview with Chase and Big Joe, and it was short and sweet, like it should be after a training camp practice. But I was very impressed with the wisdom of Tyler Lockett. And so let's just hear a couple of things when they were asking about, what are you seeing from Cam Ward? What are you trying to do to help Cam Ward? Which one are we going to hear first, David? Do we have
helping Cam Ward?
All right, let's start with A, because you hear this all the time, a veteran wide receiver. How do you help a rookie quarterback? And I really liked Tyler Lockett's answer.
How are you able to help him kind of get into the National Football League and learn this league while also trying to be productive yourself at the same time?
I think the biggest thing, man, is I'm just here if he needs me. You don't want to talk too much. You don't want to talk too little. I do believe it's all about relationships and building chemistry, not only on the field, but off the field. But, you don't want to act like you know everything as the vet. You got to be able to listen and kind of learn how he sees the game, understand his feel of the game, and be able to adapt and find a middle ground on what he wants you to do, because ultimately he is the quarterback, right? So I think for me, obviously, I think being able to come here, I think there is a variety of opportunities for a lot of players to be able to play at a high level. And I think that Cam is the quarterback to be able to get the job done for every person on this part of the team. And so I'm excited. I think the biggest thing is every day we just got to be able to get better, grow, and be intentional. I think that's really a big word, is being intentional and not just being out here because this is what the schedule says.
I think that's a really good starting point of why they brought Tyler Lockett in. I was impressed with that answer, D-Mace, because he didn't give some of the easy things it would have been to say, like, yeah, he's a rookie and I'm going to try to do this and that. I like that his answer was more, I want to get a feel for how he sees the game. And I also now here's a guy that's been in the league for what, 9 or 10 years, Tyler Lockett?
It's been 10, I think.
And he has learned a lot, but he wasn't, I love how he had the humility to say, we shouldn't act like we know everything, right? I'm here. I'm going to help him. But if I just go tell him that I know everything, that's not going to go over very well. So I sort of like that approach. I hope he's still got enough in the tank talent-wise to help on the field. But it does seem like, based on what he said there, that it's a really unique approach. I could see why they circled him as a guy they wanted on the team.
Yeah, I mean, when he was signed here, you knew as an organization you were not getting, from a play standpoint, you were not getting the Lockett that was, the top or one of the top slot guys in the National Football League. A guy that was, he had the ability to play the one if he needed it to, but he was the quintessential number two to DK Metcalf. He did all the dirty work underneath, but he could get deep. But now that he's not, that part of him is no longer there, but he's still good enough to help your team physically, but more importantly, he's good enough to help your team mentally, because what he's able to do is he's experienced a lot of things. He's, did they? No, they hadn't been in the Super Bowl with Lockett. Yeah, they did. They did go to the Super Bowl with Lockett. Was that his rookie year?
Well, remember they went to the back-to-back Super Bowls.
It was the other kid from here. the receiver from here. Went to Notre Dame. Why am I forgetting his name now?
Golden
Tate.
Golden
Tate was on that team, I believe.
Lockett was a rookie in 2015. And let's see, did they go to the play? Did they go to the Super Bowl that year? Was that the Tom Brady?
I think that was the Tom Brady one.
That was when they lost the Super Bowl after they had won the one before. They were, obviously the Malcolm Butler interception away from winning 2 in a row.
So he's been sort of to the mountaintop, per se. So he's been there. He's experienced it. He has something tangible that he can bring to the team outside.
I could be wrong about that. Was that the 2014 or 2015 season?
Well, they had good teams. Let's say
they were playoff. He played for a lot of really good Seattle teams.
He played for a lot of really good Seattle teams. But what he brings is that knowledge. What he brings is working with a young quarterback, even though Russell Wilson was, into the NFL at the time, but it ain't like Russell was in the NFL 8, 9, 10 years. They still were working through, whatever. They had won some Super Bowl. They had won a Super Bowl, went to another one, I believe, right before he got there, or that first year he was there. So there's things that he can bring to the table that I don't think the other receivers can. Him having to switch a quarterback after playing so long with one and then having to switch to another. That experience helped, being with 2 different type of quarterbacks, whether it was Russell Wilson or the quarterback. I don't know. I'm forgetting his name either. Last year's quarterback, Geno Smith. Geno Smith. Those guys were 2 different type of quarterbacks, and they led differently. So he's able to, go to Cam and, explain to him, some of the different styles that he's learned. Learn how to, to say that. But like he said, my job isn't really to come in here and tell you this is what you need to do. This, unless you ask me, what was your experience like with these quarterbacks?
I'm an open book. I'm here.
Exactly. I can give you my experience, but I'm not here to tell you, no, do this. No, I'm here to say, what can I do to make your job easier? Hey, how do you want this route ran? I'm used to running it like this, but if you want me to run it a different way, I can, as long as I'm on the same page with you. It's what you want, because ultimately, what makes you feel comfortable? Receivers, the really good ones, they can work around whatever. It's what is it that is going to make you comfortable as a quarterback? Is it going to be running a slant like this, running it this way? How do you want me to run it? Because it doesn't work if you don't feel comfortable.
Okay, now let's talk about the presence in the huddle. This is another thing that I was very interested in what he would say, because Tyler Lockett, as you said, he's been on a lot of good teams. He's played with some good quarterbacks on a winning program. Here's what he had to say about Cam Ward's early leadership skills that he's seeing and his presence in the huddle so far.
How important is when we talk about he's got command of the huddle? I'm not in the huddle. You are. How important is that?
I mean, I think it's very important. I think the biggest thing that you want to see in a quarterback is confidence, and he does not lack that at all. He has confidence, and you got to have confidence, because when you're a quarterback, you never know if everything is going to go right or if everything is going to wrong. You got to be able to be steadfast and just be able to play and be calm. And the way that he plays, the way that he goes about everything, you could tell that he's a leader. He doesn't have to try to force himself to be a leader. He's already a leader. And, when he speaks, we listen. If he says, hey, we're about to do meetings, we go have meetings. So I think he's a phenomenal player, and it's crazy to even think that he's a rookie,
right,
just with the mentality that he has coming in.
The biggest thing I took out of that was the quote by Lockett, who should know what he's looking for here, that he's not trying to be a leader. He is a leader. Mm-hmm. And I do think, even though he's a rookie, I do think veterans can pick up on that, where sometimes it's forced. Like you can tell a guy, he's trying. He knows he's supposed to be a leader. Mm-hmm. He's supposed to have presence in the huddle. But there seems to be a notion that he's got that. They knew, and that is what Louis Riddick said. Mm-hmm. That's what a lot of people who evaluated Cam Ward said. In addition to the physical talents, mm-hmm. that mental part of it, which it's hard to teach, right? You can grow into being a leader, but it comes natural for some people.
Yeah, to me, having the leadership qualities is, I think, is one thing. And I think that's one of those things that's essential for a player that you want to be your leader, to have those qualities, those traits. And it seems like Cam has them. But the problem for a rookie, well, the learning curve for a rookie is this, and I think it's across sort of across the landscape of, whether you're a leader at home or a leader at your job. How do I lead? Because these guys are different from the guys at the University of Miami. Those guys at the University of Miami were different from the guys at Washington State. Washington State was different from Incarnate Word. So I have the leadership qualities, but how do I lead? That's what Cam needs. That's what he's going to find out now. The leadership quality is in him. They know it. How do I lead grown men? Because a year ago, I was leading teenagers, basically. I was leading 20-year-olds, guys that were on my level. Now I'm leading guys that got families, they got businesses. They're doing all these things. So now I got to find out, how do I lead? Because the majority of the people in the locker room are not my peers, my guys that I hang out with. They're older. A lot of them are older. So how do I lead guys that have already been in the NFL, that have already experienced it, that have already been through or in the fire of an NFL season? How do I lead those guys now? Because it's going to be totally different from how I led the guys at Miami. Now I got to learn how to. That's why you got to get to know people. That's why, the relationships. I think Ridley spoke of it too. The relationships are the things that you try to build. Cam talks about it all the time. I need to build relationships with these guys outside of football, because I got to know how to lead them, because they are not the same guys that I was leading a year ago. Those guys, half of them, still wet behind the ears. They still got things dealing with their parents. It's just so many other things that they deal with that I had to lead based upon what I saw and what I was feeling. It's totally different now, because now you're dealing with grown men with grown family problems.
And with that in mind, here's a guy that's about to turn 33 that is saying, if he wants to call a meeting, I'll be at the meeting. I feel like he's getting the right messages across. He's tuning in. He's connecting with some of the veteran players. I don't think Tyler Lockett is just blowing smoke. You never know at this time of the year, but you try to read a guy. I was just impressed listening to Tyler Lockett. So that's one perspective from one of the veteran wide receivers. Then there was the throw on Saturday. They got everybody's attention. And I'll always remember Jeff Fisher, Chris Johnson's rookie year. CJ2K. And in practice, like you said, when it's not pads and it's not live, you always have to try to gauge, was that legit? Like, somebody makes a play, like, how would that have been in a real game? Because it's a simulation, right? Until you get out there with pads and tackling, you don't know. But there were a lot of plays that a lot of us in training camp were seeing, and we were asking Jeff Fisher, hey, he just scored on that play. And so Jeff Fisher was asking his coaches, would he have scored in a game like that? And the answer was, yeah.
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 A lot.
Because he was doing these things, and you're eye-popping. You're like, okay, is this real? Is this real? And that was a play where you kind of ask, could he do that in a game? And, you could get some varying things. Well, the rush wasn't live and it wasn't practice, but it was a really good display of what he is capable of doing. And then you're like, well, in the game, that could be intercepted. Or if he did that again, it could be intercepted the next 3 times. Okay, we know. But let's ask the wide receiver, right? So TD had a really good interview with Calvin Ridley, who caught that pass, just about the throw in particular.
A good example of that timing that you mentioned, when Ward, he was scrambling to the left, and you kind of turn your route up, and he unleashed the bomb, and you went and got it. Is that something that really came from the chemistry that you guys are developing?
See that touch he had on it?
Yeah.
He give me time to run under it.
Yeah.
It's easy catches. So that's what I love about him. It's not, hard catches. He has some touch. He let me run right under it, and it was soft. So, man, that's all the receiver ever wanted, man.
How would you describe the excitement level? I mean, you hear these fans are going crazy for you, obviously, but for Cam as well.
Yeah, man. Man, when we picked him, man, it feels different around here. You know, it feels in the building. It feels like just really because of him. That first pick when we got him and it was him, man, it just feels crazy. Honestly, it feels good that we got a good quarterback. He's confident, and we got to keep him confident and protect him because he's special.
I want to.
Okay, so there you have it. So let's run this through the wide receiver translator and because he said a lot there. He said a lot there.
Wide receiver translator.
Okay, and so D Mace is running it through the translator as we speak, but he's got a lot to say. His eyes lit up when he was listening to that quote, and that was a great little interview with TD because you could, even if you didn't listen to a word of what he said, you could sense an excitement with Calvin Ridley that I think is very, very noticeable. So when we come back, we'll break it down. Let's see what the wide receiver says about what these guys are experiencing so far with Cam Ward. Stay tuned. You're listening to the DVD here on 102.5 The Game. And let me remind you that DVD is presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
How would you describe the excitement level? I mean, you hear these fans are going crazy for you, obviously, but for Cam as well.
Yeah, man. Man, when we picked him, man, it feels different around here. You know, it feels in the building. It feels like just really because of him. That first pick when we got him and it was him, man, it just feels crazy. Honestly, it feels good that we got a good quarterback. He's confident, and we got to keep him confident and protect him because he's special.
Wide receiver translator.
We're back here on DVD, and we're getting D Mace's perspective, just listening to Tyler Lockett and Calvin Ridley, who are observing Cam Ward as a rookie and some of the encouraging things that they're seeing, and trying to keep in mind that it is training camp. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of optimism. Nobody's lost the game yet. You know, it's hard to screw up this early, but the early things that people are saying are worth noting. That's why also we're trying to put it through the filter of the wide receiver translator. But you were impressed with what Lockett said. I really tuned into him, but D-Mace, you were really curious about that interview, a short interview that Calvin Ridley did there. So what did you see?
Yeah, I mean, it was giddy, to say the least. That's what it was. And I explained to you, like, it was like meeting that girl that you, after that date, you come home and your boys say, how did it go? And you just can't find the words, or you find a whole bunch of words and you're sitting there giddy and your cheeks are rosy red and you got this big Chester cheese smile on your face. And you're just talking about this girl like, man, she is the greatest, man. Boy, I've never met anyone like her. When I first saw her, we got to talking, man, I knew she was the one. Man, D, I'm going to marry her, man. This is my lady. That is how Ridley was talking about Cam Ward. The enthusiasm, the passion, the giddiness, the sort of, it was almost like he was infatuated with Cam Ward. And again, you didn't hear that from no one. And I repeat, no one outside of the owner.
Yeah. Not on that level.
Not on that level.
They never said,
exactly.
They were encouraged about Will Levis.
They were
said
encouraged
good
about
things.
it. Yes.
They always, like we said, in training camp, people are never going to slam the quarterback. It's just like in hockey, you just will not ever hear
the goalie,
somebody slam the goalie. They're not going to do it.
Exactly.
They're not going to do it.
So
but this was going above and beyond.
Yeah.
Right?
This was like, I met that girl. Like, this is I'm marrying her. Everybody else, see ya, don't want to be ya. I'm marrying that girl right there. That's how Calvin Ridley, his adjectives were toward Cam Ward. It was just like, wow, we finally, like, the best looking, the smartest, the most intelligent, everything woman just walked through the door, and I talked to her, and she likes me, and I like her. I'm gonna marry her. That's Calvin Ridley. We met. She liked me. I like her. I'm marrying her. This is my quarterback. He's my quarterback. This is Terrell Owens and Donovan.
He's talking
Tony
about,
Romo.
We have to protect him.
Exactly.
We have to, like, when
and
they
he
drafted
emphasized
him,
that.
Yeah.
He emphasized we have to protect him. This, you might as well put this man in a bubble wrap right now. Right now. That's, and listen, it may be, some may think it's too much, and I get it. Considering what we have experienced the last 3 years, really in particular last year with Will Levis, I understand the hesitancy of the fan base, and I understand where some are going to make this like, oh, here we go again. They are, just so infatuated with a quarterback and saying all these great things. He's not going to do anything but bomb. That was that guy. This is a different guy. He said it feels different around here. They didn't say that about Will Levis. They didn't say that about him. They didn't say it feels different around him. With Cam Ward, whether you want to believe it or not, whether you may think it's just, pumping other tires and sunshines and roses, and they're always being positive. But whether you think that or not, it's what those guys in that room think. And if you got a veteran guy saying, man, a guy that got to catch passes from him, say, man, we got to do whatever we need to do to protect this guy, because he's that guy that's going to get us where we want to go.
I want to hit on one aspect of the mechanical part of this, just the logistics of specifically catching passes for him, because I've been hearing a theme. Tyler Lockett called his different deliveries like a baseball pitcher, right? You heard, and maybe we'll play it at some point, but our interview with Louis Riddick, if you have not listened to it, and we've given you some chances to do it, but I would recommend, if you haven't, really listen to what he says, because he gives you great detail. If you're one of those people that's out there that says, oh, Louis Riddick compared Cam Ward to Patrick Mahomes, like, he gives you a lot of why and specifics of what he's talking about. And so that was something that Riddick noted, right? He can make all these throws from different angles. Not everybody can do that. But what Ridley said about that one play that everybody was buzzing about on Saturday was, it wasn't, hey, he ran one way, threw back the other, you're not supposed to do that. It wasn't about that. It was like, did you see how he threw it to where I could go run under it? What do you think that tells you about the passes he's been thrown before?
Yeah, well, we saw it. We saw it in real time. And when, again,
he was saying he's got touch.
Yeah,
he's got these traits, right? It's like you were saying, you're talking about the girl, right? That you were impressed with. She's got this, she's got that. He got specific about that pass, and it wasn't like, hey, did you see how his arm strength? It was specifics about that. I like hearing that.
And because they never truly experienced that last year. And when everybody was saying, not everybody, but there was a group of people saying, oh, it doesn't, they'll get the timing down. Don't worry about it. Those deep balls, they'll get the timing down. They'll be fine. Did they ever get the timing down on those deep balls? No, they didn't. Not consistently. They didn't. So either a lot of times it was underthrown or overthrown. But when he starts to talk about Cam, it's like, man, he led me up the field. It was a perfect pass. It was a soft pass to catch.
Because what has Ridley been accused of sometimes? Dropping passes. But it does matter how the ball comes in there. It can help somebody if the ball is softer or if the catch is made easier. Now, we'll see how this works when they start playing. But I do think you could tell in Ridley's voice that, hey, this guy is going to help me be better.
Yeah, there are catchable balls and there are balls that are not catchable. I think part of Will Levis's troubles last year, he never knew when to take a little off. He didn't have that accuracy and that touch that you needed consistently. Now, I'm not saying that Will Levis would never develop that, but he didn't have it last year, and it showed a lot of times. What you're hearing now and what you're sort of seeing now is that touch, knowing to throw it up the field, especially when you're throwing it across. You never want to lead that thing because you don't know what that backside corner is doing. You never want to leave it short or in the field, sort of in the field of play. You want to throw it to that. If I'm running, let's just say the way the stadium is. If I'm running north, that ball, and I'm running a corner route to that far pylon or the near pylon, that ball should be on my left hand. It should be more in my left hand, people, if y'all can really visualize this. It should be more on my left hand, which means it should be closer to that back pylon than that front pylon, because now if it's on my front pylon, if there's a corner over there, he's more than likely can get the ball. But if I throw it to my left hand, my left shoulder, he's going to put me more so up the field, and I got to run underneath it. That's what Calvin Ridley was saying. He didn't throw it short. He threw it so I can run underneath it and allow me to adjust to the ball. The ball didn't have to just adjust to me. That's what players want. I want to be able to adjust to the football. Those are easy passes. I don't want the football to have to sort of adjust to me. In a sense, sometimes you may have to throw it in there when the hole is short. But when you're talking about passes like that, I want to be able to adjust to the ball on that particular route, rather the other way around. In those balls, whether they are, when to throw the ball hard, when to put some air under it, when to put it there right on the money. that was something that Will Levis struggled at last year. A lot of it we saw down the field plays where they just couldn't connect in the game. I think if Calvin Ridley's open now in the game, and that is, if those plays are now this season, I think Cam Ward connects with him more than Will Levis did last year.
And remember,
but he has to catch the ball. He still has to catch the ball.
Yeah.
That's been his problem.
I'm also not having a pep rally because I will be reminded, I'm sure, but I will continue to own up to there's still so much riding on this decision for Cam Ward. It's early. I'm not here to hype him up too much because I did think that it was better to trade the pick and get the extra picks. But I have to say, I am noticing what they're saying about him so far. It's extremely early. And as we talked about at the top of the show, we're now going to go into a different, the next level, and that is in pads. Can he do the same type of things? I've asked you this before, too, about the different release points, right? There are some quarterbacks who I think were taught, especially before the era of Patrick Mahomes started, that you always repeat the same delivery. You don't try to throw sidearm. You don't try to throw, a 12 o'clock one and then 10 o'clock for another. But there are quarterbacks that have now grown up watching Patrick Mahomes throw from all angles, and quarterbacks that are now saying, hey, I think I can do that. And Ward would fit into that category, right? So what does that do for the receiver when you're catching a pass that's coming from a different arm slot every so often?
I think in practice, that's where you get used to the different type of arm throws, whether it be sidearm, underneath, jumping up, throwing the ball, throwing it on the rope. You get comfortable and familiar with the angles that he likes to throw. And I think people, y'all got to understand when people talk about Cam Ward, when, whether you be Louis Riddick or anyone else, or even those that are on this show, when we talk about Cam Ward and his ability to throw the football, and it sort of reminiscent of a Patrick Mahomes, it's not that we're saying, again, that he's like Patrick Mahomes. We're not saying that. And I think even though you tell people that's not what I'm saying, they still want to believe that's what you're saying. I'm not Louis Riddick, myself, or anybody else. We're not saying he's Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes, and I think it started with Steve Young back in the day, because Steve Young, he wasn't a tall guy, even Drew Brees. When you're not that tall guy in stature, you got to find other ways to get the. Doug Flutie is a perfect example. Doug Flutie was 5'10", but because his ability to have different angles with his throws, he was able to get the ball through.
Yeah.
So this just didn't start now with Patrick Mahomes. I can go back, to Steve Young. I can go back to, quarterbacks that have done it, the shorter quarterbacks, Drew Brees, guys like that have done it and had to change their arm angles because of the lack of being 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". Marino didn't have to do that. Peyton Manning didn't have to do that. Tom Brady didn't have to do that. Why? Because they were on par with the offensive linemen that were in front of them, or sometimes even taller. So when you have a guy like Cam Ward and Patrick Mahomes, even though Patrick Mahomes is, I think, 6'3", they still give you that arm angle is what we are comparing. I'm not comparing him to Patrick Mahomes. Oh, he's going to win 5 championships, this and that. He's going to be one. No, I'm comparing the arm angle, talent, how they throw the ball. Just because you throw the ball that way and have those angles doesn't mean you're going to be that guy. But he has those traits, those characteristics of a Patrick Mahomes. Will he be Patrick? I don't know. I hope he is. But when you have a guy like that, I think as a receiver, the more and more you see it, the more and more you practice with it, it becomes second nature to him. So when you don't see him amongst the trees in front of him, the ball's still going to get to you. It may come to you at a different angle, and now you know that.
And this is what Riddick tried to explain when he was talking about, the notion, the comparison to Mahomes. He says it's a stylistic one.
Yes.
But there are some traits, and these are the specific things that I wrote down from what he said. I went back through the interview because there's so much detail in an insight that he gave us on a lot of different fronts. But he said what he likes too is beyond the mechanics, the different arm angles, right? Is that he's unfazed. He's got the short memory. And this is going to be something we were watching for when he starts throwing the ball down the field and he makes some mistakes, which he will. Mm-hmm. The short memory and then learning from it, that'll be something to watch. But there is a notion, a character trait that he seems to have, that he never feels like you can't make this play. And so that's where he's got to balance it with the mechanics of the offense, the system, take the short gains, all of that. But he likes that in him, that you feel like, one quarterback might look and say, that play's not there. He has that mentality of, I can make that throw. I can get that ball there. The things that you can't coach. And then obviously the leadership part is the other one that he really likes from Riddick. And the last one that I thought was interesting is his ability as a runner. And that's what we're going to have to watch to see how it looks when you actually see it on the pro level. He said he's not a runner that is like somebody who piles up a lot of rushing yards. The extreme example, of course, is Lamar Jackson. He's going to rush for 1,000 yards. And there's other quarterbacks that are going to pile up rushing yards. Josh Allen, there's who they are. Jalen Hurts. He said that Ward is not that type, but he can run well enough. And this is another parallel to Mahomes, that when you need to get a few yards, he knows how to find the sticks type of thing. He can elude the rush, and he runs well enough that he's going to keep you honest there. And there's been a lot of plays where you can picture in your mind Mahomes making a play where you're like, man, they had him. It looked like it was over. He was done. But he found a way to get the 5 yards by scrambling, extending the play, and then just find a way to move the chains.
Yeah, and that's more so in the line of Cam Ward. Even, you go back to the play, and listen, I understand there were no pads and everything else. I get it. It was just practice. But you saw him escape the pocket. For those who saw it, if you haven't saw it, you can go on the Twitters or the X's.
Right, the Adam Vingan,
not your X,
right,
but the app.
The Adam Vingan slow motion, perfect
yes,
rep.
Absolutely. So you'll go and you go there and you'll see, that pass that people are talking about. But I just, Cam, I think he has something there. And, I don't want to make too much of the other day's practice, because I know that things can change very quickly, especially once they put on a pass. But when you saw him, escape the pocket, that was what he's going to do in a game. That exact thing that you saw in practice is what he will do. And I'm just talking about how he escapes. He will escape like that. He will have an opportunity to throw a pass like he threw the other day. So he's not going to be looking to run the football. He will, if he had to, I'm sure, and he will gain a yardage that needs to be gained at times. But I think he's more so like Patrick Mahomes and like Lamar Jackson now, even though Lamar still runs. They want to beat you from the pocket. They want to buy enough time so their receiver can get open and them deliver the ball.
We're going to see if the hype continues, but so far, Cam Ward has not disappointed from the feedback we're getting from people that we're really tuned into, and that's the coaches, the analysts, and his teammates. So when we come back, don't forget this. TD, Teron Davenport, is going to join us at 1:00. We probably will mention the Mets have won 7 games in a row. We probably will mention that. It will not dominate. We'll talk a lot about the Titans and some of the other issues. Treylon Burks' injury, all of that. We'll get TD's perspective on that. When we come back, we do want to hit you with a couple of stories that have hit this morning. One involving Deion Sanders, another one involving a baseball situation with Emmanuel Clase, gambling, the G word. You knew it was just a matter of time, but not good news for the Cleveland Guardians. And also the Big Ten media days were last week. And boy, there were some interesting things said over there in Las Vegas. We'll talk about that when we come back too. So we're going to take a little change of pace. We'll get back to our Titans discussion at 1:00 with TD. Stay tuned. You're listening to DVD. Hey, join 102.5 The Game at the Holiday Inn Nashville Airport this Sunday from 1 to 5 p.m. for the Dude Perfect Inspired Open House. We'll be on site giving away Dude Perfect tickets at Nashville Sounds Family 4-packs, plus games, prizes, and body armor. So make sure you join us on Sunday. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, DVD. Teron Davenport going to join us at 1 o'clock. We'll talk some Titans with him. Couple other things that are going on here. Deion Sanders has just come out, and he has announced that he has undergone surgery to remove his bladder after doctors discovered a tumor there. Sanders said since the surgery, there are no traces of cancer, and he will continue to coach this season. Of course, Deion has had a lot of health issues. He's had some blood clot issues in his legs. He had 2 toes amputated 3 years ago, and he had an emergency surgery in June of 2023 to treat the blood clots, including one in his thigh and several below his knee and his other leg. So our thoughts are with Deion here as he moves forward, because we know the stresses and, everything that coaching does that can age you quicker. And so he's dealing with a lot over there.
Yeah, he is. And, I pray that all the cancer's gone. It just seems like he's been, like you said, you listed some of his ailments. So I hopefully with this one that they've gotten it all, it seems like they have, and he's able to go back and live his life and continue to coach. So, he has, I'm sure when that, when something like that happens, you start to, question some things. So I just hope everything continues to be good on his front.
Yeah. Just the grind of a season, how stressful that is. And with some health issues and, for the first time, he doesn't have Shador. Yeah. So this is going to be something we'll be watching very closely. So we wish Deion well. Another big story in baseball. And this is always what you fear in any sport. You just cringe because the wave, and look, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. The gambling that has been legalized, it has become everyday language. We know this is a part of it. It's built in. But the reason for so many decades that people and leagues stayed away from it is the fear that some games, you would lose the perception that the game is on the level. And so far, so good. But you do wonder in the coming years what we're going to see here. And the latest one is with Cleveland Guardians closer Emmanuel Clase, a great pitcher. If you're not a huge baseball fan, Emmanuel Clase is one of the better closers in the game the last 3, 4, 5 seasons. He hasn't had a great year this year, and he has been the subject of a lot of trade rumors. But today, he was placed on the non-disciplinary paid leave through August 31st as a part of Major League Baseball's investigation into sports gambling. So this is the second Guardians pitcher to be caught up in the inquiry. A lesser pitcher, but a good one, Luis Ortiz, is also on this same paid leave. So it doesn't really get into what is going on specifically. But this is a 3-time All-Star. And in the immediate future, with the trade deadline coming up on Thursday, the Guardians probably aren't going to get a whole lot of offers for Emmanuel Clase if they were thinking about trading him. They're right on the fence of whether they're in the playoff race or not. But D-Mace, this is always, I'm sure all commissioners, all leagues are looking and saying, every day that goes by, you don't hear this, a scandal of a player involved in some way connected with gambling is a good day, because it's so easy to get caught up in it now.
Yeah.
With the amount of money being bet legally everywhere.
Yeah. And listen, we've had our share of guys, getting suspended. Or
Calvin Ridley,
even though he wasn't, with a Titan, he wasn't a Titan player at the time. He's here now, and he had to deal with his suspension. Then we saw Nicholas PT. He go through his, suspension for gambling. This is, and like you said, Willie, each day that passes that you don't hear about an individual, being suspended or allegations about, a guy or girl gambling is a good day, because the two are so closely linked together. It's hard. The lines may sometimes get blurred. Like for PT, the lines got blurred for him because it wasn't that he bet. It was that he bet, I believe, if I understood, he bet on NFL grounds, right? Was that PT's thing?
Yes,
right.
That's what it was.
So
the lines are blurred.
Exactly. It's not a clear cut. What are you thinking?
Exactly.
He went right to the casino and like bet on the Guardians, bet on me, But what's starting to happen is these subtle things.
Exactly.
For Petit Frere, he probably didn't get the rules. Ridley, we know what happened there. So for this is a growing concern, I think, with the gambling, is what they call micro bets, right? With all the props, where a player in any sport, probably, if you really think about it, you could come up with schemes where you could, just for one pitch or one shot or one play, one throw, affect a bet by just saying, well, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna throw a ball on this pitch. I'm gonna hit 2 batters or something. And it's implied in here that maybe Clase was caught up with that in some way. Here's what Rob Manfred had to say. There are certain types of bets that strike me as unnecessary and particularly vulnerable. I know there was a lot of sports betting. Tons of it went on illegally before all these rules, and we had no idea what threats there were to the integrity of play because it was not transparent. I firmly believe that transparency and monitoring that we have in place now as a result of the legalization puts us in a better position to find these things out. But this investigation, which started June 27th from IC360, a firm that monitors betting markets for abnormalities, are unclear. Sportsbook and gambling operators were alerted after a spike in action on, this is the other pitcher for the Guardians, Ortiz, his first pitch in the bottom of the second inning against the Mariners, and in the top of the third inning against the Cardinals, according to sources. In both cases, unusual amounts of money were wagered on those particular pitches, being a ball or hits batsman. So you see what I'm saying? Like the pitcher is probably like, I'm not trying to lose the game. It's just one pitch. But he could win somebody or lose somebody a lot of money on you hit a batter. Like the 1990.
It's just like with Jonte Porter. He messed up on some over-unders. Like he had the over-under of rebounds or something like that. And he would make sure to get the over and then get right out and sub right out.
Yeah. So these are just little things where players I'm not really doing anything to affect the game, but
you are.
It's not good.
Yeah, because that just,
you're trying to stay under the radar, but it just shows you the temptation of getting involved in this and where it could go. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, it is, and I think every sport understands it, because again, there are some things we know that are black and white. But then there are some things that are gray, like, well, I can still bet, but can I be on? I know now I can't be on NFL grounds nowhere. Like wherever there's an NFL function, if they ask you to go do a speech at a middle school, you can't bet at that middle school. Why? Because it's a function that the Tennessee Titans or any other team they are affiliated with. So you can't even do it then. So there are some that are black and white, but then I think there are some that you have to be careful. Because it's not that you can't bet, it's just that you better make sure that you are nowhere near an NFL
You
grounds.
can't affect the game that you're playing. That is still taboo. So I do wonder what the penalty, if it's, when they are done with this investigation, will ultimately be for these two pitchers, what they find out. Because, Pete Rose used to always say, well, I only bet on my team to win. What's wrong with that? But if you really think about it, there's still a lot of questions that ask that do affect the times that you don't bet as opposed to the times that you do bet. And then these little things, well, I just, one pitch, 2 pitches, that's all I did. I wasn't trying to lose the game. But wait a minute. One pitch could be a big difference in a game. All of these things, the integrity is in play here. The integrity is in jeopardy. So with that in mind, let's keep that just file that away as we move forward in this investigation here. When we come back, TD is going to join us, and we'll talk Titans with him and a little bit of the Mets. They won 7 in a row.
Just a little bit.
Let's go. Let's go Mets. LGM. Stay tuned. This is DVD rolling on to hour number 3. Final hour on this Monday. DVD. Here on 102.5 The Game. We are broadcasting for the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick and Derek Mason here with you, joined by Treylon Davenport. And, of course, Treylon is a fellow Mets fan, and we are riding the wave of a 7-game winning streak after a little bit of a dip. So, Treylon, we're feeling good on this Monday.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you, it's pretty cool. I was out with Paul Kaharski last night when Soto hit the home run, so I just calmly turned my phone as I was watching the game to his attention and let him see it, man. It's feeling good.
It is good. So, Treylon, some things to discuss. D-Mace and I had a really good discussion about just the weekend in general, but in particular, your interview with Calvin Ridley, and also just some of the things that D-Mace in particular is tuning into, what people are saying about Cam Ward so far. And it is so early. It is still July. So we want to temper this. But I think we're encouraged so far that with all of the hype and the expectation level, that he's delivering so far. And you could hear it in Calvin Ridley's voice in particular when you talked to him after practice in the stadium on Saturday.
Yeah, man, that guy was so excited, and it's great to see. And, I mean, you know the play that he made where Cameron Ward directed him to turn up field, and he was running to his left, and he unleashed a bomb to the right and really went and got it. You had that. And then you look at the play that was also impressive. He was on the opposite hash, right, and he threw a deep out-breaking route to Ridley and really dove and caught it. And, you know, he got up, and he was definitely talking, you know, and just taking in the moment. I think you could really feel a different level of excitement with Ridley, and that's no slight on Will Levis from last year because, you know, he was excited about Levis, but you could tell it's different this year with Cameron Ward.
And now, TD, with that being said, it's not. I don't think it's just Calvin Ridley. I think it's. It just seems like it's everyone, but they sort of show it in their own different way. Whether it be Jeffrey Simmons, you know, explaining to everyone how, you know, Cam Ward was going back and forth, or Brian Callahan saying why he was going back and forth, he still was listening to the plays and still had everything. So I think everyone, to a person, has their own sort of experience that makes them say, this guy just may be what we've been looking for the longest. But it's as far as the team Saturday, because I don't want to get too far ahead, you know, of myself in regards to, you know, thinking this team has sort of they're a different team than what they were last year. But what are you seeing? Not just Cam Ward, because I know the excitement he will bring, and we already understand that. But what are you seeing from the team as a whole, minus Cam Ward, that makes you think it's different from last year?
I think you look at Tajay Spears for one. He's healthy, and you could tell the explosiveness that he has. So that's something. Just as far as like overall as a team, I mean, I think at this time last year there was excitement about the linebacker position, right, with Kenneth Murray Jr. and everything. But I think having James Williams step in next to Cody Barton the way he has, I think that has been good. But I mean, overall, I won't say that there's much different this year from last year outside of Cameron Ward and how some of the players are reacting to him.
Now, looking at this team, and more importantly, the receiver room. Now that Treylon Burks has went down first and foremost. Just talk about that, because Willie and I I think we may have spent 2 segments on it. Just an individual that seems to be working so hard to get himself ready for the season, and then every season we see a glimpse, and then it's over. Yeah. So what has it been like for you when you saw it and he went down, then he went, you know, I think he got back up, may have practiced a little bit more, but ultimately he had to go into the training room. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, every time Burks goes down, you're always looking a little bit extra.
Yeah, we talked about that. It is like we've been trained, right?
Yeah, it's just like, just from the experience, that's what your mind tells your eyes to do, and so that's what happened. And he popped up, and I was like, okay. And he started to jog back, and I took my eyes off him before he started to grab at that shoulder. And it's just unfortunate. And that's, that's not one of them injuries where it happens. You say, oh, the guy's fragile. He's diving for a ball. And as receivers, you're always taught, hey, look, man, I got to get my body between the ground and the ball so I could corral it through contact with the ground. And that's what he did. And it just so happened that the shoulder it had to pay the price. And it's unfortunate. We'll see, what his future looks like. I mean, I would imagine that's probably it for him as a Titan. And it's very unfortunate because there's a lot of promise that was just left unfulfilled.
Do you think that, it would be telling if they choose not to put him on IR, or if they do put him on IR? If they put him on IR, what does that tell you? And if they don't put him on IR, what does that tell you?
Yeah, I mean, the way it's set now, I believe if he goes on IR, there's no designation to return. So it would tell you that, hey, they look like they're looking at it like, hey, this is it.
So it's that serious, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, just the way the designation works, yes.
Yeah.
Is that serious according to the designation? But as far as the full diagnosis, I mean, they're still examining him, and they were still looking to, as of Saturday, going into Sunday, they were still, it was still under further evaluation, and they were trying to determine for sure. But all signs are pointing to it being a fractured shoulder, and it's unfortunate.
Now, do you think he was in their plans? Because I was listening to Joe and Rex this morning, and Robbie felt that. Well, I said Joe and Rex. I mean Robbie and Rex. Joe and Rex is the same people. Robbie and Rex. But Robbie said he didn't think that Burks was going to be on the team, and that's his opinion, and I understand it. I'm not sure if I totally prescribed to him. They already had in their mind that he wasn't going to be on the team. I think this was his last shot. Like, he either needed to show it, or he wasn't going to be in their plans for next year, but he was going to be on the roster.
Yeah, he was going to be on the roster this year. I mean, it's not a super expensive contract. He serves a purpose in that he could play special teams as well. He's a guy that they used at times as a kick returner, not punt returner, but kick returner. And then he was a gunner on punt team. There's value that he brings. In addition to the receiver position that would have landed him on the roster. And then not to mention, he is a guy. I mean, like, you look last year, they were trying to do everything they can to get him, those vertical shots, so they feel, that staff, that is, they feel that he could be a vertical guy, but, it remains to be seen, right? We probably will never know.
Now, who do you think now? Who does this open up a lane for? Because everybody's fighting. The good and the bad thing about it is, after Calvin Ridley and probably Tyler Lockett, everything is open. But maybe that's the bad thing too, because the position hasn't been solidified, as a group within for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, the Z and the X, or excuse me, Z in the slot. You pretty much know what it is, like you said. But I think when you look at X, Burks was a guy that they like to use at the X position because he could get down the field, and I think Van Jefferson is going to work through all three. But to me, it opens things up for two guys, honestly, and that's Bryce Oliver as well as Alec Eiermanner. I think those two guys are going to be the ones that can really get some extra reps and have an opportunity to show why they need to be on the roster. And I mean, I had him keeping, I think it was 6 or 7, but Burks was the last man in, and we'll see.
Teron Davenport talking Titans with us. Teron, looking league-wide, a very, I don't know, bizarre might be the word, story with Christian Wilkins, who is a very, very talented player. If you're just maybe a fantasy football player and a Titans fan, you may not exactly process Christian Wilkins on your radar, but he is a guy that makes a lot of money.
He just got a massive
contract. Got a big deal. He's coming off an injury, and now you have a sort of a strange incident that didn't sit well with a teammate, and the Raiders have cut him. There's been a grievance filed by Christian Wilkins about this whole thing, and you might have a talented player on the street, that you don't normally see at this time of the year. But what do you make of all this?
Yeah, and in addition to that, you have the surgery that he was supposed to get that he's not getting, or something that's not in sync with his rehab. So it's just a whole lot. And I mean, man, would you expect anything different from the Raiders? Like, there's always turmoil with this team. Always. And I tell you what's crazy or wild about it is I remember Christian Wilkins coming out, because remember Mike Vrabel loved that guy. Like, remember he went down to Clemson and he had the pad. Mm-hmm. He was holding the pad and Wilkins was hitting it, and he was like, oh man, like I really could feel his power, this, that, and the third. And it's now he may end up being free, and we'll see what happens. But I mean, I don't think another team would pick him up. And then we also don't even know the full extent of the injury rehab that he's got going on.
Yeah, I guess that will be what to look for is, number one, just especially with all that's going on with the PA and the grievance filed. That's one angle, but also there's always a question when something like this happens. A talented player, who wants him, and then what's the price? Like that is something to keep your eye on for sure.
Hey, TD, quickly, and you may not had the answer to this one, but when Willie brought up the PA, it sort of popped in my head. Are the guys even worried about that portion right now? Have guys even talked about what's going on with the PA? Because I know camp is going and guys are really worried about making the team, but this is big. This can affect them ultimately. So are guys even talking about it, or do they even care, do you think?
No, I haven't heard anything about it, but I mean, our interaction is all off the field. Unfortunately, we're not in the locker room, so we can't really just be there to overhear like the common conversations. But I thought about it the other day, and I said, wait a minute, Brunskill, he signed with someone else. He signed with Miami. Who the heck is the rep here? So I got to kind of figure that out myself. And once I figure that out, then, could find out a little bit more, get a little bit gauge of like where the interest is and what's going on there.
Teron Davenport with us. And Teron, we had a very insightful conversation with Louis Riddick last week. And one thing that he had, I thought, some really good perspective on was the perception of Brian Callahan outside of just this 1 year he's had with the Titans, which obviously was a mess. It was tough. They lost, and that never is helpful for a coach. But he was pointing out that his reputation around the league is really good, and he was one of the most sought-after coaching prospects when the Titans hired him. So he had a lot to say about the match between Brian Callahan, and one of the things that jumped out at us was he said, the Titans shouldn't go looking for reasons to fire him because he's not, quote, their guy. So as this develops going forward, what have you seen in terms of Brian Callahan fitting with Cam Ward and this sort of new regime with Mike Borgonzi?
I think it's a really good fit between the two of them because the personalities match. Brian Callahan is, for the most part, unless Will Levis is doing a forward lateral as he's being brought down or something like that. For the most part, Callahan is pretty cool, calm, and collective, and it meshes well. And I think just the willingness to give him a little bit of control. Okay, like you look at the switch verse, they put that in the playbook. The emphasis on passing down the field, right, being explosive as an offense, and it's because of the match with Cameron Ward's skill set. All those things, you look at it, and there's just a merge, a mesh of philosophies and beliefs and just all of that. I think that's good. Now, as far as with Chad Brinker and with Mike Borgonzi, I think they're in a very interesting situation because they have the draft, develop, retain mindset, right? And so they've drafted Cameron Ward. Now they got to develop him, right? And obviously, if the development is right, he gets retained. But, it takes patience. And there's an understanding because of both of their backgrounds that you got to have a similar structure in place over time for a quarterback, especially to be successful. And that's why it would be detrimental, unless absolutely all HELL breaks out, you don't fire Callahan. You know what I mean? Because you have that need for the structure, and just allowing him to build. And the thing that I like when talking to them, because, Chad Brinker, when he spoke last week, he mentioned patience, and I said, oh, okay, well, how does this patience relate to Brian Callahan? And Borgonzi chimed in, and he was very complimentary of Callahan. So right now, things look good, but we know like things could go left quickly, and a lot could turn around and be a whole different story.
Well, speaking of a different story, last thing for you, we're now moving into the next phase where you're going to see the pads. And I remember you and I, Teron, at a particular day last year where they're in pads, we both were witnessing the same rep where we saw Devondre Sweat. You could see the physical strength that he had. He just blew away some offensive linemen in those drills. So this year, what are you looking for on what we might find out about the offensive line and the defensive line now that the pads are going on?
Yeah, I can't wait to see those Kevin Zeitler versus Jeffrey Simmons and Devondre Sweat reps. Zeitler, I don't know if you guys got to see him in person yet, but man, Zeitler is what they would call a unit. So I think we're going to see a lot. Just for me, my main thing is going to be Daniel Moore Jr. because to me, he's the catalyst of the whole thing, right? Because if he doesn't give you better play than J.C. Latham did last year at left tackle, you're kind of at a wash, right? And because, obviously Latham flipped it right. So I want to see Dan Moore. I want to see how well he's able to keep guys in front of him. I want to see, what he does against the speed rush, the bull rush, all of those things. And I think that's what we're really going to get to see is just how this O-line, because, look, there have been times where these guys off the edge, they're getting pressure, and you just kind of chalk it, all right, they're not in pads. So let's see what happens on the next step towards reality as far as being in pads and everything like that. And so that's what I'm looking to see, just how they're going to hold up against the blitzes, the outside rushes, the interior rushes, all of that stuff.
Teron Davenport is with us. We'll have all kinds of coverage throughout the week on Titans training camp as the team preps for the season. Of course, our coverage of Titans training camp is presented by Macero in 12 South and Parman Energy Group. TD, well done as always, and we'll see you out on the field. We'll be talking to you throughout.
All right, definitely. We'll be out there tomorrow.
That's right. And make sure you get your sleep because the Nets play on the West Coast tonight, okay?
Yeah, no, I'm still going to watch.
There you go. I knew it. All right, that's Teron Davenport. ESPN.com, and of course, a huge part of our family here on 102.5 The Game, does a tremendous job covering the Titans. When we come back, we're going to get a little bit more of what D-Mace asked TD about the receivers now that have an opportunity in the land of opportunity. Titans wide receiver. Now you have Treylon Burks, who has had his latest injury, and it's a serious one, it appears. So who has a chance now to fill the void? We'll get D-Mace's thoughts on that next here on 102.5 The Game. We are moving down the home stretch to the last hour here on DVD. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick. Adam Vingan is out this week as he continues to learn the principle of the gym rat, the rule of the gym rat. We're going to talk to him about that when we get back. If you heard the top of our show, you know what we're talking about. If not, if you're a gym rat, you know that there is no way to not get into a gym.
There's always a way.
Especially an old gym. So we'll leave that for now, and we will get back to that.
Should have got in.
Can we verify that Jared's going to join us for the phase in?
As of right now, he is good to go.
Okay,
but I'll let you guys know.
So he's thinking about he could big time us before the end of the show.
There's a chance. There's a chance. It is Jared.
I mean, you got to prepare, D-Mace. I mean, we're just who we are.
Yeah,
it's just a couple of regular guys.
Just
Jared's gonna have to say, should I take the extra effort? Should I go on?
I guess I'll come and join them.
I guess I'll go on with Willie.
He can't big time us. He can't big time us. That's not Jared. Jared doesn't do the big time.
So you asked TD about what in the look. Some would say this was inevitable. Somebody on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, said Treylon Burks is the Titans' glass man.
Yeah,
not meaning Cody Glass.
Mr. Glass,
he's made of glass. I just remember
Samuel Jackson.
Remember the video game that I spent a lot of quarters on in the arcade, Punch Out.
Yes,
there was your first opponent, and
Glass
you
Joe
beat the crap out of that guy, Glass Joe.
I just think about SpongeBob, that episode on SpongeBob, where it's the guy who just is like, "Oh, my knees are just made of glass." And
that was great.
He breaks everything. It was just so good.
Great thing about that video game is you're going to spend the quarter, but you knew you were going to beat Glass Joe.
Yeah, if you couldn't beat Glass Joe, you might as well not even be playing. Yeah, you couldn't beat Glass Joe.
Glass Joe. That was a fun game. How far could you get on that game? I could beat Piston Hurricane was the second guy.
I mean,
I had a battle with Bald Bull. It took me a while to get past Bald Bull.
Bald Bull.
You couldn't go to the body on Bald Bull.
Yeah, Bald Bull. You spent many hours trying to beat Bald Bull. Many hours.
That took.
And then you finally beat him, and then you spent many years trying to beat Tyson. If you ever beat him. Yeah. And I'm not talking about on the easy level. Everybody beats him on the easy level. I'm talking about the hard level.
You had to dodge. Well, Bald Bull, like he would step back and he would come at you with the uppercut. Yeah. You had to be able to dodge it. Yeah. You knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But if you didn't do the right move, he was going to knock you out. Yeah. Treylon Burks out again.
Mm-hmm.
Who in your mind, because maybe you can help for the listeners that don't understand all the particulars of the X, the Y, and the Z receivers in the offense. And so in your mind, who does have an opportunity here? Like, how does it lay out with knowing that Lockett and, of course, Ridley are going to be in their spots?
The Z receivers, usually the guy in movement, off the ball, motion guy. He could be your bigger guy, your faster guy. It just depends. Now the league has changed so much. It's, you want your guys to be interchangeable. You just don't want a Z, X, and H or Y, whatever they call it now. You want guys that could be multiple at what they do. So now that Treylon has gone down, I think it does open the window. And TD said Isle Manor. He feels that this is an opportunity for Isle Manor, and I think Bryce Oliver to really step into that role as the starting X. Now, when I was out there the other day, Van Jefferson and this was before Treylon was hurt. Van Jefferson on the first snap ran the X while Calvin was at the Z, if I can recall it. We went to first team. Now, that can mean nothing. That can mean, I've seen coaches just kind of run like a revolving door with guys, just to place them and see how they react to it. So I didn't make too much of it. But now that he's hurt, I think the first reaction is to put Van Jefferson at the X receiver and keep Calvin where he is and sort of work in Isle Manor and those other guys. There was no guarantee that both of these rookies would make the team. And I think that's what some people just assume. Oh, they drafted one in the fourth and one in the fifth, they're going to make the team. No, that's not how it works. Just because you were drafted in the fourth and fifth round doesn't mean, oh, you're going to make the team. this is a wide open competition for a receiver position outside of Lockett and Ridley. So guys like Io Manor, they can, put themselves in a position where they are the leader in the clubhouse as far as the X receiver. But I mean, not only Io Manor, Jefferson, Bryce Oliver. And I wonder where Jaquan Jackson fits in this. Now, I didn't ask TD anything about him on purpose because I wanted to wait till pads come on. But this is another guy that I think it opens a lane for Mr. Jaquan Jackson. Now, whether he plays the X or the H is yet to be seen consistently. But I know they want him to learn all those positions as well because they wanted him to last year. And they were excited about him for a minute there. And it just seemed like once he dropped that punt, it was done. But for guys like that, it opens the door. And either you will, I think you'll get a good, a sort of a good look or a good idea of what the Titans think about these guys. The longer we get into camp, if they're not bringing in someone else, and I'm not just talking about a camp body, I'm talking about someone that could push them. That means they are okay. They feel that that position has enough talent, enough talent and enough competition that it's getting better each and every time they go out there on the field. So if they don't bring anyone in of a name, so to speak, or a guy with experience, then that tends to tell me that they okay. They believe they're okay at that position, and they believe they see the development that they need to see in the guys that they are going to rely on during the season. But yeah, it does open it up. Not that I understand what Treylon Burks was, people, and I understand that he hasn't given much to anyone within the last 3 years, and this is his 4th year. But I think they still had him in their plans, and they were hoping like they were last year.
Not knowing this could happen.
Yeah,
but still, I think they were intrigued just
Yes.
to see, with a fresh start, could it happen? But it
didn't. And now, he may, because of his injury, we always say, well, you don't lose your spot because of injury. Well, in Treylon's case, he just may well lose his spot, on this team because of injury.
I'm curious if he is available.
Meaning starting, like playing. Now, he said he may still be on the roster, but as far as playing time,
I don't know how much clarity we're going to get or not get with the extent of this injury, because the assumption is always it's the worst it can be for Treylon Burks. Like, it's always something. But if he does become available at some point in the season, are they interested in trying to bring him back? Like, depending on where they are in the grand scheme of things, or how some of these young guys look at that point. I'm thinking, look, they don't play for another 6 weeks. You got 6 weeks until they even play one game.
Yeah.
And then, what if it's 3 or 4 weeks, or even, like you said, if you make the designation of injured reserve with a designation to return, that gives you 6 weeks to sort this out. I do wonder if they're even going to worry about it, or they're just like, look, enough is enough.
He has 6 weeks until the first game, 8 weeks until I think they have to determine whether he's going to be back or not. But I want to believe that he'll be back, and they're going to keep that roster space open for him. Now, hey, listen, it could change tomorrow. They could put him on IR and just be done with them. But I think they're holding out as long as they possibly can before they put him on IR, if they have to.
We know Tehran is usually a glass half full optimist. He seemed to think it's pretty ominous, the extent of this injury. He seems to think it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's you just, one, you gotta have it in a sling. I'm not sure if that's something that you repair. Like, I don't know, how do you repair that? Do you just let it heal on its own, put it in the brace and let it heal on its own? Or do you actually go in, do a surgery? If it's healing on its own, then I think they're going to wait until closer to the season before they make a determination. But again, if they make a determination today that he's on IR, like before the week's end or something like that, then, in their mind, Yeah, he probably could have came back, but why? They're in their mind that, well, you had your chance. You got injured again. So we're not going to hold this roster spot for you. You're going to be on the team. We're going to pay you, but we're not holding the roster spot, at least not to start.
I'm going to ask you about another guy in here. The FTN Football Almanac on Van Jefferson, right? Who's got, it's his first year. We're going to learn about him. But one trait that they point out is that they call Van Jefferson during the course of his career a, quote, loss leader. I didn't know what they meant, but this is what they're getting at. He played 721 offensive snaps last year and was targeted just 40 times, never more than 5 times in a game. And it's not an anomaly. Since 2022, the last 3 years, he's been targeted only 127 times in 1,840 snaps. He doesn't seem to be especially proficient at blocking, though he has a good X-receiver body and tries. He amounts to a stopgap for the Titans as they try to figure out what to do with their non-Calvin Ridley receiving options. And now it's even more pronounced with the loss of Burks. If Jefferson plays, he will be running a lot of go routes and out routes to clear space for the rest of the receivers. Does that fit a profile? Can you think of other receivers who have been in the league that are, I guess they're calling him a glorified decoy, but enough of a threat that, you clear out space for other guys? Have you ever heard that before?
Oh man, no, because if indeed you're a deep and I'm looking at his numbers and he is more in the line of a deep threat. 21 he averaged 16 yards, 22 he averaged 15, and then 23 he went between two teams, but he averaged roughly 13, 14 yards, probably about 14 yards a reception. But then it sort of dropped in 24 to 11. He's one of these guys. His best season was 21. He played all 17 games. And he seemed to be a part of what they were doing, the young group of receivers. And this was Cooper Kupp was at the top of his game.
So that's part of the reason they didn't throw it, because they had Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
They threw Cooper Kupp so many passes.
Exactly. And then I think was there too. They came here with the Titans 2 years ago.
Robert Woods.
I think
Bobby Trees.
Robert Woods was there as well. So the catches probably didn't come, but they threw the ball so much. But he's one of those.
It
guys.
is interesting though that regardless, he's been some different places, and no matter where he's been, they haven't thrown the ball that much. The last 3 years.
But he's a guy that he's a good player, and he could be a solid number 2. But after that 21 season, he's dealt with his share of injuries too. That 21 season, that 22 season, he
played only 11 games.
Yeah, he missed 6-7 games. He came back and he played 17 the next 3 years, but it seemed like he never caught his footing after the 21 season, where he had 800 yards, averaged 16 yards per catch, had 6 touchdowns, had 50 receptions. He never got back to that, because then the next following season he gets injured. So
I don't know what to make of this.
Yeah, I like Van Jefferson. He's one of those guys that if you he's not going to get you a bunch of yards every game, but like I said, he could be that quintessential number 2. He can be.
So you could see him as number 2.
Yeah, he can be what Corey Davis
ahead of Lockett. Almost?
No, Lockett is your slot. Lockett's not. I don't count Lockett as your number 2. He's your slot receiver.
Okay.
He's not your number 2. He's your slot receiver. Now, if you're talking about options, then maybe it just depends on what game. But I think he can be what Corey Davis was when Corey started to really tap in to who he was as a player. He almost had 1,000 yards. I think he ended up missing a game. That's why he didn't have 1,000. I think if he starts the season off, that's who he is. He is Corey Davis. If I can get out of him what they got out of Corey Davis, perfect. This offense will flourish, because why? He's getting close to 1,000. Calvin Ridley, I believe, will get over 1,000. I think he had his best season he's had within the last 2 or 3 years, I think this season will be that. So if you had that combination and then other stuff going on, I think this is going to be a good offense. Not great offense, but I think this will be an offense better than what it has shown the last 2 years.
It's always something to watch when a guy has changed teams a few times, how a new team is going to use him. So Van Jefferson, who has, Middle Tennessee Times, he grew up in this area. It'll be interesting to see how his first year as a Titan plays out. When we come back, what's the verdict, David?
We got him.
He's in. Ding, 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 Jared Stillman is going to join us as we segue into his show. We've had a great Monday here on 102.5 The Game here on DVD. And we're coming down the home stretch next.
Derek Mason here, and if you injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers for a free case evaluation. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible or nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your car or your case has been settled. They understand how much your bike gear is worth to you and will help you get it all repaired or better yet, replace. Law Tigers is the resource. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support an event or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW Tigers or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fusen, and you can find them in Nashville at 2126 21st Ave South. 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
This week's Nashville's best deal is Prince's Hot Chicken, Nashville's original hot chicken, bursting with heat and flavor. There's nothing better than the original. For a limited time, grab half off a $25 gift card at theGameNashville.com/deals. Also, our training camp coverage for the Titans continues, and it's presented by Macero in 12 South and Parman Energy Group. Willie Donick, Derek Mason here with you, joined by Jared Stillman, who is poised and ready to go for Stillman and Company. Jared, the pads are going to be on here soon. We're moving to the next phase of training camp. A lot of people watched with, a little extra when they're in front of the fans at Nissan Stadium, like they were on Saturday. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you always downplay a lot of things like that, and so just your overall vibe at this stage of training camp, especially coming off of Saturday when the one throw seemed to get everybody really juiced up.
So it doesn't feel like there's any stopping the Cam Ward hype train, huh? Because, I mean, I've sitting here, guys, I've been sick for about 2 weeks. I'm finally now, I really feel like over it. Like, I feel like I'm done. I'm over it. I took a Benadryl on Saturday, and I woke up and I looked at my phone, and my phone was just, oh my God, we got a franchise quarterback. You doing this throw right here? I'm like, you do realize he would have been sacked on that play in a real game, right? Like, that's, I mean, can we have a practice where he doesn't throw an interception right over the middle to a linebacker standing right? Can we have one? I mean, so I guess big picture, it feels to me, and Derek, you grew up with Joe Flacco. Mm-hmm. It feels to me like Cam is probably where a rookie quarterback should be in practice, which is he is showing flashes of talent that got him drafted in the first round that should give people hope that he's got the ability to get this thing off the ground. But I lived through Vince Young, and I lived through Mariota, and I talked myself into Mariota. And I defended Mariota because I wanted Mariota to work out, but it doesn't work like that. And with Cam, he's still making some rookie mistakes, and I think this is going to be a very rough, transition for him into the NFL, which I'm okay with. But if you're sitting there and just going, oh my God, he's incredible, you're going to have a hard time accepting reality when it hits you in the face like it did with Caleb Williams in Chicago last year. So I think Cam is where he needs to be from what I've seen, because I haven't been out there at practice. I think Cam is where he needs to be. I think to talk about the leadership qualities of this man, I think it's a little overblown. I think it's, I'm more worried about the tangible than I am the intangible. So I think that's a little overrated. I think that's a little, Brian Callahan sunshine pumped in there. But as far as where Cam needs to be, I think he's where he needs to be. But that is not Mahomes' status as of this point.
Well, I'm not surprised to hear that. But you're right. I think it's the tempering. Here's the other factor that goes into this, I think, a little bit, Jared. You have a neglected stadium that they're asking people to go watch games in for not just this year, but 2 years. And Cam Ward is all they've got. They don't really have, what other jersey would you buy? Maybe T'Vondre Sweat if you like the lineman jersey. There's not a whole lot.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering about that factor and how that would affect Cam Ward. Hopefully it doesn't. If he's what they hope he is, he won't be affected by that. But I do wonder about that contribution to the hype train.
So I think that the way I would look at that question, Willie, is the difference in comparison between Paul's breakdown at his website of Cam's day at practice and Jim Wyatt's breakdown on Titans Stationery at the Titans website of Cam Ward's day. For instance, here's how Paul starts his. Cam Ward did some very nice things, looking poised and in control overall. It's paulkarski.com. But not everything was smooth, with a couple of mistakes and a couple of plays that qualified as getting the job done. Meanwhile, Jim, on his Titans website, it was Cam Ward's first time throwing the ball at Nissan Stadium, and he threw it well. Ward completed his first 7 passes of practice, including a deep ball to Calvin Ridley on the first play of 7-on-7, which got the crowd cheering early. When the focus shifted to third down, Ward kept the momentum going, connecting with Bryce Oliver and Van Jefferson on back-to-back-to-back plays. Ward was 7 of 8 in the 7-on-7 period. He made plays well. Blah, 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 blah. Finally, he says Ward was picked off once, but he made a lot of plays that got the crowd really excited. You see the difference between the two?
Hey, it's the same book with it. It's different chapters, but the same book. I think they're just telling it from different angles. As we know, Mark, James, John, Luke, they tell it from different angles. I think that's what they're doing here. But I do understand what you're saying, and as far as the hype train. But Jared, you gotta tell the truth. This is all they got. So why not ride?
This is all they got. This is reality, and I want to live with reality.
But if you're overhyping, that's not doing him any favors.
But I think it is. Their reality is they're seeing something, because we're not in there every day, but they're seeing something that they haven't seen. And listen, no slight to Will, but the way that they explain or talk about Cam Ward, listen, it may be some pumping in there. I get it. Some tire pumping in. I get it. But I think the way they see him every day, all day, is different, and they believe in that. Now, the fans only believe in the throws that he's making. So I can understand them getting very excited or the throws he doesn't make. But I think the organization is seeing something that even we're not seeing. That's why they are so, in a sense, giddy about him, because the way Calvin Ridley talked about him, I mean, you would have thought he was the best quarterback since this was his new love. Like he was going to marry her and be together with her until he wasn't.
But they said those same things last year about
not like this. You got to admit.
Do you
not
remember
like this.
DeAndre Hopkins telling TD, like, I know football. Levis is a great quarterback.
But it's not like, and again, it may be wrong this time. They may be wrong this time. I don't know. But I think the talk is different. Yes, they were talking about Will Levis, but there still was like but the way they're talking about Cam, and it may be wrong. I don't know. But it's a little bit different, maybe because they're seeing some things that we can't see, and those things are within the building and not really a lot of times on the practice field.
Nobody is better at seeing the things that we can't see than the Titans.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
But this is, again, the argument of taking the extra picks that I have to stand behind, because I said it. But there's so much riding on Ward. I do wonder how that affects everything when it comes to hype and things like that.
So give us a little teaser.
Seeing what you want to see.
There's somebody that texted into the text line that said, hell yeah, Mace, spot on. So this guy said, you're right, Derek. There's something there that we can't see that I'm telling you, Derek, you're right.
So that's how you.
Okay.
So that's how you're gonna start your show, Jared.
You know what? Sure. I think today we're gonna start off by selling Cam Ward T-shirts at the gift shop. You know, that would be the most productive thing I think I could do. Derek Mason says there's something we don't see. Get your T-shirt, $10.
Hey, I want half of that, Jared. I want my 5. Okay.
Jared, have a great show.
See you guys.
Yep.
All right, that'll do it for DVD today. We're back at you tomorrow. Titans training camp continues with the pads on.
Be loving your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Monday. Peace.